Lazy Susan, Batman! Hello there and welcome back to Building with the Boys. We now have issue 30 of Hachette's Build the Batmobile Tumbler. And as we said via the voice of Robin at the beginning, holy Lazy Susan, that's essentially what we're building. We're building a Lazy Susan. What's a Lazy Susan? You get them in restaurants. So very large discs that you spin around, you can pass plates around the table. That's essentially what we're building with these parts. We're using the cage from part 29 in this one. Now, the Lazy Susan has been quite polarising amongst the community. There are a lot of people who aren't happy with the volume of parts that you're currently receiving from Hachette. I get it, I understand that. But yeah, as I keep saying, this is the nature of the beast, right? So you've got to build all these parts at some point anyway. You just do. So I know you're like, I want the great big pieces, and it has been a while since we've had anything of any real substance, but look, it is what it is, man. You've got to build this stuff anyway, so make your peace with it. What we're going to be doing is we're taking our cage from the last one, and we'll be adding it inside of this one that's going to make a rotating disc. No one knows what the rotating disc is for. That's the problem. So no one knows what this is for. So it is quite frustrating. It would have been nice if they'd told you. So I understand people's frustrations with like, we made a disc and we don't know what it's for. Yeah, that's annoying. It's annoying. If they'd have said, okay, this is what it's for, I think people would have been all right with it, but they didn't. But it's neither here nor there. What we're going to do is we're going to get this one together. We're going to build this. It's really not going to take long. I've built one of these before on the Iron Man. We're going to do that. We'll go through the build instructions. And at the end of this, we'll have more talk about the film focused on this month, which is Batman and Robin. And we talk about the casting choices, who played the parts, why they played the parts, and who nearly played those parts, which is quite interesting. So let's get this one done. If you haven't yet, please remember to like and subscribe. That helps our channel massively. We just love having you on for our journey because, you know, every super team needs to be a team. We all want to be Batman. Unfortunately, most of us end up being Robin, but it's just the way it is. Let's get this one open. Let's get this one built. Okay, so both of these parts are identical. Doesn't matter which one you use for whichever stage. These parts, however, are not. As you can see, one of them has the female part, one of them is the male part, so you can attach these two together. But which one's which, what goes where? How do we do this? Well, as I said, it's not overly complicated, right? So, you know, we're not talking quantum physics here. It's quite simple. So what we're going to do is take 30B. Now, 30B is the this piece here. And it doesn't matter which one it goes into. So we'll go into that one, flip this one over, sit it down like so. And then taking our cage with these parts facing upwards, and drop the cage in there. And then we are going to take our second platform, that's what they're calling it, and pop that one on top like so. And then, I think you can see where we're going with this. We're going to take this piece here, that's going to marry up to there like so, and then taking a single APC screw, that is going to screw into the center. So we're going to take the screw, it's going to drop in there, screw it in. Again, no need for 3-in-1 because we're going plastic to plastic to plastic. That's it. So now you've got a rotating disc. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that is issue 30 complete, and no one knows what this is for. Got an idea though. We'll talk about it next. So we're done. We've got this disc built. Now, no one knows what this is for. A lot of people think this is for the cockpit. They're maybe going to put the cockpit on and you can rotate it. Possibly. I'll tell you what I think it's for. Now, in the next one, we are building the steering engine. That's quite telling to me, including the order this has come out in. Now, we were wondering how the wheels are going to turn, because we all saw on the ad the wheels turning independently on their own. But we know from the steering wheel we built, there's no way to turn the steering wheel, it's going to turn the wheels. So how do the wheels turn? Well, it would appear the wheels are going to be automated. That's going to be automatic. I don't think it's a remote control thing. Well, if it could be remote control, you press the remote and off it goes. Now, if you've got a model the size that we're building, bearing all the weight down on the axle, when you attempt to turn those wheels, those bloody enormous wheels, you're going to chew gears because all the weight's been pressing down on it and it's just going to chew the gears. However, if you had a little turntable that was just kind of lifting it ever so slightly, which gives the car a little bit of give, when you turn the wheels, voila. That's what I think this is for. I can't see it being for anything else, and that is what I think this is for. So I think ultimately this is going to alleviate some of the weight from the front of the vehicle when it sits. So the wheels are ever so slightly lifted. That's what I think this is for. I could be completely wrong, but it makes sense to me with the engine coming up, the turned engine coming up next. That kind of makes sense. Does that make sense to you? Hope it does. That's all for the build instructions. If you are just sticking by for the very brief build instructions, thank you for stopping by. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're sticking around for our Bat Chat, we are talking about a low point in not just Batman history, cinematic history with Batman and Robin. And, is it really that bad? We'll come to that because it had a lot of potential. And we're talking about the casting in this one. So we already know Val Kilmer has skipped town, and we know everyone's in it, but how did that come about? So how did Arnold Schwarzenegger end up in this movie? Because at this point, it's fair to say that he was still one of the biggest actors in the world at this time. But it's also fair to say that his star was clearly on the wane. He hadn't had a hit in a while. Now, you look back at his filmography and you go, okay, well, no, you're wrong, Scott. He'd just done Last Action Hero. He did do Last Action Hero. Last Action Hero was not a hit. It wasn't. It's remembered fondly now, and people have kind of looked back at it and said, as a parody of itself, and it's actually quite clever, but it wasn't how it was sold. So it was very much sold as an action movie. And I think a lot of people went to see it and thought, what am I watching? And it was, I don't know, it was too violent to be a kid's film, but it was too kid-friendly to be an adult film. It's a bit of a mess. It's got sparks of greatness in it, but it's a bit of a mess, but it did not do the box office they wanted it to do. So he had just come off a string of kind of failures. So Junior had been at the box office, which is his second Paramount Down DeVito after Twins. It did all right. And yeah, he'd had a few misfires. So he'd just done Eraser as well. So Eraser came before this, and Eraser was Arnie. It's an out and out Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, but it's not one anyone remembers fondly. Do you know anybody that remembers Eraser fondly? Because I don't. I barely remember the plot of it. So it's fair to say that he was on a bit of a decline. I think people were bored of it. He pretty much dominated the box office for 10 years between 1985 and 1995. He'd been a very dominant force in the box office, and I think it was fair to say his star was on the decline. So when he gets the opportunity to have a very large payday, top billing, in what at the time was an incredibly lucrative franchise, well, he took it. He got to play a villain as well. He said, really want to play a villain. Since he played the Terminator, he hadn't been able to play a villain. And the idea of playing a villain appealed to him greatly. So Arnie signed up. He was all on board. We were missing a Batman at this point, so there was no Batman. So again, they went and did the rounds looking for Batman. And again, it was offered to Ethan Hawke, who said no. Again, smart move this time. William Baldwin was offered the part of Batman. He declined. In the end, they went with George Clooney after seeing George Clooney in From Dusk Till Dawn. They wanted a pretty Batman, if you could, and at the time, he was very much Dr. Doug from ER, which is why they went with him. People forget that. You remember George Clooney as being kind of like George Clooney as he is now, kind of, everyone's favourite uncle with his silver hair. This was George Clooney back then. So very different. At the time, George Clooney was being lined up to be kind of like the new romantic comedy guy. But he thought otherwise and wanted his career to be taken more seriously, and fair play to him. But before he got there, he had to get his foot into Hollywood. He was still a TV actor at this point. It's hard to believe, but this is when George Clooney was still just considered television actor. So this was his foot in the door, do a favour to Warner Brothers, and then maybe they'll let me do a movie of my choosing. So he was Batman. Uma Thurman was cast as Poison Ivy, based on a performance in Pulp Fiction, of all things. Really? That's what you got from Pulp Fiction? But they wanted a femme fatale. Chris O'Donnell is obviously back for more. and Alicia Silverstone. So Alicia Silverstone was very much the it girl of the mid-90s. Clueless was huge. Clueless was almost a cultural movement at the time, and it was so big that it was a complete no-brainer that the next movie she does has got to be something massive. And she got a very good payday for Batgirl in Batman and Robin, but it also came promises. So Robin himself, Chris O'Donnell, was told that they were going to do a Robin spin-off, and Batgirl, Alicia Silverstone, was told they were going to do a Batgirl spin-off as well. And they probably were. Had this been a success, that probably was the intention, but it really wasn't. I mean, we know what happened with Batman and Robin, and no one got out of this unscathed, with the exception of George Clooney. Everybody else, it really hurt their careers badly. The saving grace for George Clooney was that he'd already signed up to make 2 more films. So immediately after this, he did Out of Sight, which sort of made George Clooney what he is now. But if he'd have followed this with a bomb, I don't think we'd still hear George Clooney. I think George Clooney probably would have ended up back on TV in something, or just staying in ER. But everybody else, it damned their careers. It was bad for their careers. So Alicia Silverstone, this film almost ended her career, and something very cruel happened to Alicia Silverstone during the marketing of this movie. Very different times, but not wildly different times. A lot of the press reports, the media reports, and they were paying 10 grand for a photo at this point. Anyone could get a photo of any of these actors in outfit, 10 grand. So when they released the press stills of Batgirl, Batman and Robin, the main focus was the size of Alicia Silverstone's thighs, which aren't big by any means. But her weight was the main cause of concern for the media at the time. And they absolutely savaged her. They were so cruel to her in the media about this. And it's like, Jesus Christ, but this happened. So they, thunder thighs, and that's what she was being called. And it's like, how cruel is that? How harsh is that to a young girl at the time as well? And not by any means. I mean, look at the pictures. Look at the pictures. So they tore her apart. It was mean, but they tore her apart. But again, the buzz around this movie was huge. So anything that came out about it was news. So we've got most of our cast there. There are 2 more villains to be cast, and one of them was Bane. So the first time Bane appeared on screen, he was portrayed by a professional wrestler called Jeep Swenson. Now, Jeep Swenson's professional wrestling career was dark matches, opening matches at best in WCW. But this is Jeep Swenson without all of the Bane gear on. This is what he looked like. It was Jeep Swenson without the Bane outfit and makeup and whatnot on, because they painted him to play Bane. This is Jeep Swenson in the Bane outfit. Now, I remember, again, seeing the first images of Bane and thinking they have nailed that. Because they had. I mean, he looked like Bane in the comics, and it's like they have nailed that, and they've got a big son of a bitch to play him. This is going to be good. But this is what he looked like. So it's looking good at this point. We're thinking, okay, this is, because we didn't know at this point what they'd actually done to Bane. Bane is criminally underused in this movie. Bane is reduced to kind of this bumbling henchman that says one word, which, as we've spoken about earlier with our villains of Gotham, couldn't be further from the truth. Bane is ridiculously intelligent. He's supposed to be this dichotomy of kind of massive intellect, massive body, which is what makes him dangerous. He was a very intelligent man. He wasn't this kind of bumbling fool by any means. But that is what he is in this. Now, you heard me say there were 2 more villains left to cast, and you might be thinking, well, who's the other one? Well, believe it or not, there is another villain in Batman and Robin that's only in one scene, but they were setting this up for a 5th Batman film in this franchise. So you're probably going to think I'm joking. This is the part where you all disappear to Wikipedia or Google to see if what I'm saying is true. But the Scarecrow is in Batman and Robin. You think I'm joking? I'm not. Gets weirder. This is who plays the Scarecrow in Batman and Robin. Yep, Coolio. So Coolio is in one scene in this movie. There's a scene with a motorcycle race, which is how Batgirl is winning money to pay for Alfred's surgery. We'll come to that when we talk about the movie. But Coolio is the guy that's kind of doing the gambling, doing the underground bike races, and it was going to be revealed in the 5th film that he was, in actual fact, the Scarecrow. And this is a cameo for him to set up that character. I kid you not. So a great pub quiz question is, who was the first person to play Scarecrow on film? Coolio. So Coolio is 100% the Scarecrow. This isn't a rumor. This isn't a... Is it? No, he is 100%. That is who he is playing in Batman and Robin. He is the Scarecrow. It's got a different name, but he is the Scarecrow. That was the original plan. Nuts, right? But it's true. So now we've got all our cast in place. So all our cast are there. So we're off to the races, right? Well, we're going to be talking about the production, the actual filming of this one in issue 31 of the Batmobile Tumbler. Now you're all got to run to Wikipedia to see if I'm lying about Coolio being the Scarecrow, but I swear to you I'm not. That's all for this one. We're back very, very soon with issue 31 of the Batman Tumbler. We're building the steering engine. There's not loads to do, but tune in for it because it's going to be fun. And we'll be talking more about the production of Batman and Robin as well, and how crazy that got. There was a phrase on set that made all the actors shudder when they realised they were in a turkey just by hearing it shouted. You'll find out what that is in the next one. You can contact us at buildingtheboys@outlook.com. In a world where you can be anything at all, just be nice, and remember, Gotham needs us. Thanks for stopping by.